Thank you for that fine introduction, Mr. Ward. My name is Wardy Ward, and I'm going to be one of your tour guides on this important episode of What's Up Aboard, the podcast. I come from the good hood where we give it good and get it good. But I also want to give a shout out to my co-host before we get started. Miss Tiki's in the building. How are you doing today?
Hey, Ward, what's up with you?
You really don't want to know, but we'll keep it moving. Our motto on the show is everyone has a story to tell, but we just want to know what's yours. With that being said, our studio guest certainly fits this criteria. Miss Jewell Ward is a highly educated, active in her community person, author of several books, religiously active as well, and healing from the pains of her past. But I'll let her explain that. Jewell Ward, welcome to the lab.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
Thank you. How's everybody? Hey.
I'm doing good, doing good in the hood. It's so many things
Very
we want to discuss with you, and we got a limited amount of time, so we're going to get started on this anyway. But Jewell, if you can tell us, who is Jewell Ward in your own words before we get started?
Who is Jewell Ward? That is a question. Good question.
Who is she?
Jewell Ward is a person that came from a poor family. Had both parents, but my father wasn't always there. It was my mom who raised 7 kids.
Okay,
Jewell Ward was born in Indianapolis, Indiana. Lived on the west side. Jewell Ward got pregnant at the age of 17. She dropped out of school. Mom helped raise her child, her daughter, but she decided to go back and get her GED and graduate. I was a young child trying to raise a child. Had no wisdom of how to be a mother. But because of the saved and woman of God mother that I had, and my brothers and sisters and my baby daddy, as they say these days, parents, we all came together and helped raise a beautiful, young, intelligent, Black African-American female, and proud to be a mother. Jewell Ward got caught up in drugs at the age of 17 too. Loved to party, drink, all of that as a young child. I became a professional singer. Had the opportunity to go to, when Michael Jackson was coming up, I had the opportunity to go to Hollywood, but because of my mother was religious, she turned that down and said that her daughter would only sing gospel. So from there on, drugs took over. Father never showed up. In and out of church. In the world more than I was in church. And then finally, there was a drug called crack cocaine that hit surface. And I took off. They say when you hit it one time, one is not enough, but 1,000 is too many. Well, I reached above that 1,000 to the point where I was married, lost my marriage. I was in an abusive marriage. Jewell had their daughter to raise, but she couldn't raise her daughter because she chose drugs over her child. But my child was at the age that she did graduate from Decatur Central. Thank God for that. I was an in and out mother till my addiction had gotten full blown. When my addiction got full blown, the beautiful house that I was in, the fur coats that I used to wear, the jewelry and diamonds on all fingers, the Cadillacs that was parked in the driveway, the furniture that was in my beautiful home, all went to drugs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. My daughter I didn't realize how painful it was and the bridges that I broke, the hearts that I hurt, because at the time, I didn't care. I was more in love with what was making me feel good to numb the pain. I became so far gone that my street name was no longer Jewel. My nickname was no longer Honey. I became Auntie. I became crackhead. I became whore. I became a madam. Whatever it took for me to satisfy my need, that's what I did. At that time, I wasn't Jewel. I was an unknown person that was hiding behind the pain, that was hiding behind the trauma, that was hiding behind the hurt of being disowned, but never cared about who I hurted along the way. That was 12 years ago. That was a 36-year journey.
Wow.
Because I started off with alcohol.
Oh, okay.
I had 7 brothers. I have 4 brothers and 3 sisters. My mother did the best she could. My mother never picked up a bottle of beer, never drank, never cursed. She was a woman sold out to God. Back then, I didn't see the light of God because that wasn't where I was headed.
Okay.
36 years of being out on the streets, being addicted to drugs, alcohol, anything that made me feel good, except for heroin. I wasn't Jewel then. I said I come from an abusive marriage. I did. Yeah. And I'm going to be transparent because that's what this is all about, to help somebody from where they at to get to where I am today.
Absolutely.
I slept with women. I slept with men. I ate out of the trash. I walked the streets day in and day out. When there was a blizzard, I was walking in the blizzard because I had nowhere to go. And I was trying to get that next one to make me feel good. And I would always say, Jesus, if you would just help me to get that one, I get off the street. God would do his part. But Jewel never kept her promise. And so as time went on, this thing got worse and worse. It began to control everything about me. When I woke up in the morning, that's all. If I went to sleep, I never went to sleep. I was like a walking zombie because this demon, that's what it is. This spirit had me so in control that whatever it said to do, Auntie did it. I robbed a couple dope men just to feed myself. I put women out there to have sex with other men just to feed my habit. You name it, I did it. I wasn't Jewel then. I wasn't Jewel then. I was somebody else. I had a 3-bedroom house. Upstairs, downstairs, basement, garage, nice neighborhood.
Yeah.
Jewel couldn't pay her rent, her mortgage. Lights got cut off. My husband would give me the money to turn the lights back on, but I would go to the dope man and I found out a way to trigger the lights so that they would come home. There were times there wasn't food in my refrigerator to feed my child. I wasn't there when my grandbaby was born because I was chasing Jason. I was chasing that one. I wasn't Jewel then. I was in an unknown body. But all I know is, and I'm not going to lie, I liked what I did at that time. But as the time went on, it began to hurt me. I couldn't go to my family. My daughter would be looking for me. I would be in the dope house hiding. When it would be cold outside, it would be cold in the house where I was at.
Mhm.
And I wasn't doing that. But today, 13 years overcome, 13 years clean, 13 years saved and sanctified and full of the Holy Ghost, I can say that my name has been changed from crackhead, from whore, from dope fiend to Jewell.
Mm.
So today, you are speaking to Jewell, a person that my long walk home from dope to hope.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
journey.
Wow. That's quite an opening there. We've never had one
Incredible,
like
yeah.
that. Yeah. So
Mhm.
a couple questions I want to ask you. You said when you were trying to get that next one, do you mean the next high, the next hit? Is that what
The
you
next
meant?
hit,
You would pray to God and ask him to help you get a hit?
I
Is that what-
did.
Wow.
See, God was always in me. And I'm going to tell you that
Okay.
at that moment, and I don't mind saying, I was using God when I said that. That I wasn't in the right place. You know, I would pray and ask God to save my life because I would feel myself having heart attacks from smoking so much, from smoking something that has been laced with something. One time I actually was there and I felt my heart stop. And I prayed to God, God, if you save me, I won't do this no more. And that is today, April the 17th, when I decided to go back. But yes, I did pray and ask God. I did. God, help me to get this one more. I'm tired of being off this street. Yeah, I did.
And you had mentioned that this all began for you at the age of 14. Is that when you started with the
started
substance
drinking.
abuse?
Yeah.
And you got addicted to alcohol immediately?
Drinking first.
Well, see, that was all. Alcohol was first. I'm sorry. Alcohol was first. And because my brothers would drink and I hung out
I
with
was
them.
wondering now. Mhm.
I hung out with them. I went to the house parties, you know, you get in where you fit in. Back then, the house parties, we were sneaking drinking. And so I had brothers that drank. And so that's where it started. I used to drink Wild Average Rose, Dark Eyed Vodka, Everclear, gin, you name it, I drank it.
So you didn't like the
Do you-
taste of it first, did you? You just kind of,
No,
it was
I couldn't
acquired.
stand the smell of beer. And I still can't. That's one thing I didn't pick up and drink, thank God. But everything else, hard liquor, I drank
Mhm.
because I was a tomboy, but I was tough. You know, I was the one that out of 7 kids, I'm gonna get it, no matter what it takes. You know, I was on a mission and didn't even know I was on a mission, but I was on a mission for the wrong thing and headed in the wrong way. I didn't have nobody at the time to tell me, hey, this isn't the way to go, because that was the thing back then in those days. But I knew God because I came from a family of God. All of my family are ministers and leaders and filled with Christ. You know, we're believers. Yeah. God was always in my heart, but I chose to go another way. I would go to club Saturday night, stay there at about 4, 5 o'clock. Sunday morning, I knew I had to be at church. 1 foot in the door and 1 foot in the club. I was young.
So how did it progress to the harder substances then?
Went to a party. I would say one of my family members. I seen them snorting cocaine. I worked in a pharmacy at the age of 18, 19 as a pharmacist technician, never went to school, but I caught on quick. And so Black Beauties and Desoxins and all of that stuff back in those days, I even indulged in that. I began to sell drugs as well as use drugs. Yeah. And so one thing progressed into the other. I went to parties and I seen some family members snorting, and I decided I wanted to do that. I was introduced to one of the big time cocaine dealers in Indianapolis, and I ended up in a relationship with him. There's some things I want to say that I can't say, but I was a supplier to a lot of movie stars back in those days, rappers.
Mm, 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 mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have a question. This is regarding, so your mother, she was obviously very busy with 7 children. She's trying to take care of you, feed you, house you, clothe you, whatever. And she's a minister. You said your father was not there. Was your father just
No good.
working, or he was just
No
not
good.
part of the, yeah. So
A missing in
yeah,
action.
okay.
Father.
So, okay.
Mhm.
Right. So do you think that your mother, she was just so involved in doing these other things? Do you think she was aware of what was going on in the home, the drinking?
My mother
and
would
the
tell
partying
you
and-
today,
or
she would tell you today that she never knew. And she didn't. Because we hid it so good. Going to school Monday through Friday, Saturday, hitting the club and sneaking out. And see, I would climb out the window a lot. And Mom would be so tired. And I would climb into the window. But one day she caught me. She was waiting on me. But Mom, honestly, I hid it well. I hid it well. She knew of my brothers because they were grown, but they didn't do it in the house.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? You couldn't bring it in the house. What you do out there in the world, you better leave it out there. Don't bring it in the house.
Mhm.
And so Mom never, she'll tell you this day, and my mom is 91 years old. I never knew. And she did.
Yeah. Did you know you were addicted to substances back then as you were going through it, or did you think this is just what we do on the weekend type thing?
No, I didn't know that this was an addiction thing.
Mhm.
I thought that because back then there was no education on it. There was no NA meetings. If it was, I never knew about it. There was no sponsors. If it was, I never knew them. That was the thing that we did in the younger days. We smoked weed. We did all of that. That was the thing. Did not know that it would turn out to be leading to a nightmare. I didn't know that it would lead into a monkey being on my back. I didn't know that it would have so much control of me that I literally sold out to it. I didn't know back then. But as time went on, and the older I got, the things started disappearing. Life started changing. My thinking started changing. My appearance started changing. Everything started changing to the fact that I said, and I realized, and that light bulb came on, something is not right here. Something is wrong. But it still didn't stop me.
Wow. You said you didn't use heroin, right? You didn't do that.
No, sir. Mm-mm.
Why not? I know a lot of people chose that. Why did you avoid that one?
I don't. I seen what it did. Because, during my journey, as I gotten older in my 20s and 30s, I didn't tell you that I was in and out of rehabs. And I met this lady who was in there who was on heroin. And she began to tell her story. Now that put a fear in me.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
That put a fear in me because she was saying after she ran out of this pain, she was shooting in every other unnormal place. And I just, again, Lord, don't let me get caught up in that. Mm-mm.
So what was the
That
difference?
I
What was it
didn't, and
about
I thank God.
heroin? That was,
I
Mhm.
really thank God.
Mhm. So what about heroin made it so scary as opposed to what you were doing, the drugs of choice you were using?
Because the heroin, from my experience, it was a more heavier hit. It
Okay.
made them feel more down and out. You know, the craving for that was much more dangerous than the craving. Any drug that you crave for, let me correct that, is dangerous. Anything that has control, but heroin was a more heavier hit and addiction. It was much harder to withdraw from heroin than it was from crack cocaine. And when I
Okay.
seen people withdrawing, it was scary.
Yeah.
Pitiful sight.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
agree. They get the term kicking the habit from heroin because it says you kick like a horse, you're throwing
Yes.
up from both ends, and
Yes.
your body is
It's
tightening up, you're locking up. People will say, I got to get my medicine because
yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
avoided one on that one. So how did you get to the point after going through all this stuff? Because I'm sure you were homeless for a time, probably after
Yes.
doing that and run all that. How did you have the desire to say, hey, I'm ready to get clean and actually stick to? I know you relapsed, but how did you get over that hill to do this? How did you do that?
I'm gonna tell you I kept praying. I'm gonna tell you, one day I was in a dope house, and I'm gonna tell you, I don't care how much dope was on my table. I always took time out to pray. I always prayed. Every time that they would come to my house, they want to get high. We got to pray. And my prayer was that God would deliver us, even though we were doing wrong and sinning and doing this. My prayer, because God still hears a sinner's prayer. I just kept praying for deliverance. One day I was in a dope house right next door to the church, pipe in my hand, crack in the front of me, bottle on the side. Everybody having a good time. But I looked out the window. God told me to get up and go over there. I got up and I went over to that church, and I had them to pray for my deliverance, but I wasn't done then. It only lasted for a moment. One day, I just kept asking God to deliver me because I knew that this wasn't me. I knew that this wasn't the daughter that my mother raised. So I kept God before me, and everything I do, it might sound silly to some people, but that was my hope. Little did I know that while I was praying and asking, God was still working, because there were other people outside of praying for me that I was not aware of. One day I seen a friend of mine who I used to get high with. She looked good. She had stopped getting high. I said, what is the secret? What did you do? Because I'm ready. I'm tired. I'm sick and tired. I want my life back. I want my family back. I want my daughter back. She gave me the information. Salvation Army Harbor Light on 2400 North. And I told God, I said, God, if you get me through this, I'll go sign myself in. I went and I slept in a garage away from everybody because they were in the house getting high. That's how serious I was about getting myself together. I slept in a garage and it was cold. It was snowing outside. It was filthy, but it had a bed. Somebody lived in there, a friend of mine. I didn't want to be around them anymore because my next stage would have been death. I felt death. And so I woke up and I called my daughter and I told her that I'm ready. I'm sick and tired of being tired and sick. I'm ready to change my life. She said, Mama, you sure? Because I done took her through this a number of times. And I said, yes. I literally
Take time.
I knew it was God calling me out, telling me that if you don't get yourself together, death is the next thing. When she called, we called the place, and they said they didn't have an opening, but if she could keep me one more day, they would let me in. Didn't have the money, but her and her husband came together and paid for me 13 years ago to go into Harbor Light Salvation Army, 2,400 North Tips. I'll never forget it. Everything that I needed was under that roof. God made sure. And I haven't looked back since. I was sick and tired of being tired and sick. I didn't want to die because I was at the stage. I was right there. I didn't want to die. I didn't want to die. And I didn't want to keep on because they say your sin will fall on your children. I did not want my grandbaby or my daughter. She never drank, did drugs. But I didn't want, because it would skip my daughter and it would have went to my granddaughter. I didn't want that. So I fought the good fight of faith. It was hard. It was hard when I tell you, the enemy didn't want to let me go, but God had a bigger plan for me.
Yeah, I can't imagine how difficult that was. So did you, when you actually, made that step to start getting clean, you were actually, this is it, I'm going to change, try to get out of this for good. Did you have the support you needed from family? You did from your daughter, you said, but did your other family members come in to support you, or was you pretty much just doing this without family support besides your daughter?
No, this is how it went. I told her I didn't want no one to know when I first went in to detox, because I wanted to stay focused. I wanted to do this. I didn't want no interference at the time. I didn't want the pity. I needed to get through this. Then after I came out of detox and I went to residential treatment, then when I graduated from residential treatment, transitional housing, because I needed to know what this thing was. I needed to know what I had to do. I needed to know how I can save my life and stay safe, how I can keep myself from going out. I didn't, although the support would have been there if I had asked her to tell them, but that wasn't how God wanted it to work out. I had to know what this thing was that had so much control. I had to know the steps. I had to know how, what, when, and why before I could get the support, before I could let everybody else in. I didn't want the pity. I didn't want to hear nothing at the moment but what God was saying and what the instructors were saying and what I had to do. All I wanted to know was what to do to save my life, because I knew that I didn't want to go back after. When I transitioned to transitional housing was when I gave my daughter permission to tell everybody. That's when I knew I was rooted and grounded, and I knew that I wasn't going back out there. I volunteered in the same place that I had rehab, that I went to do my rehab. I did volunteer work. I worked in the center to help encourage those once God brought me through. And I got a chance to see firsthand what I looked like when I first walked in that south entrance.
That's a good point, because I always wonder why people volunteer. So by you volunteering, you were actually helping yourself at the same time while helping someone else?
Exactly. I was learning how to be Jewell, how to be responsible. I was learning how to be accountable. I was learning how to live life without drugs. I was giving back to those. I was giving back. You know, I was helping, because it said when he blessed you, you ought to bless somebody else. And so I never did know what I looked like when I went in, but I knew I was tore from the floor up. I knew that it wasn't me. So by me being volunteering, it allowed me to share, to see who that person was, that came in that door and to see who I was differently and how I can help others.
Yes, that's a
Mm,
good point there. So
mm.
you have written a book about this as well, or a couple books, am I right?
I've written My Long Walk Home
Long Walk Home. Okay.
from
And
Dope to Hope.
what's that one about? What's the Long Walk Home about?
This is my journey.
Okay. That's the
This is my
outline.
journey. This book is the journey that I took. This book is to encourage those. This book is to let those know that you're not alone. It tells my story of what it took for me to get from dope to hope. And I'm going to tell you that if it wasn't for having a foundation in a relationship with God,
Mhm.
this journey wouldn't have been possible, because I've tried it so many times on my own and I failed. But when I surrendered to God is when I began to see the light at the end of the tunnel. This book talks about the journey of my daughter, what she went through during my journey on drugs. My first chapter talks about I should have listened to my mama. And my scripture was, the way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but a wise man's listen to advice. That was Proverbs 12:15. I didn't listen to my mother. I never did. I was a hard-headed child, but I learned from my mistakes.
Help someone else through that. I can't imagine writing this book, maybe the emotions you were going through. What was that like? We were opening up old wounds. Was it healing to you to put this down on paper?
It was all the above. Because during this book, I thought that I had gotten everything out. But when I began to write this book, I found out there were still some things that was covered up, that through writing this book, there was some wound that was still open, that God closed, that was closed. There was a healing, a cleansing, a restoration, and a renewedness in me, because now everything was out that was covered up. See, sometimes we can think that we are healed, that we are covered, that we are delivered. But until you take that fourth step, examine yourself thoroughly, you will never, because you always have to surrender. There's always things that will come up, your past, things that will come up that you will find daily that you have to surrender. And with me, when I wrote that book, I said, wow. There were some parts of the story that I thought that was hidden, that I had forgotten. But when I wrote the book, it came out. And that's when my total healing and restoration took place, in this book.
Yeah, kind of reminds me of the Phoenix. They said Phoenix kind of, I guess it burns all the way down, then it comes back up, reinvented. You
Wow.
have to walk through those parts, because it's like a purse. Sometimes you don't know everything in your purse, and you got to dump it all out. You might find out, oh man, that's where that was. I didn't know I had that. So I definitely can appreciate that point. But again, you're listening to What's Up Award, the podcast, and we're talking to Jewell Ward from Indianapolis, Indiana. We're going to move on to this second part of the show right now, called Getting to Know Your Rapid Fire Questions. Just going to ask you a few questions. You just tell us your response to them, what you think. Okay. You had mentioned just recently that you were, I guess, going through the memories and seeing things you've forgotten or suppressed, or sometimes the mind protects us. What did you learn about yourself from rereading your own book?
I learned that I am beautiful, Mm. I am courageous. I am not what I was back then. It's okay not to be okay, but to know that I am an awesome woman, African American woman with many gifts and talents that was hidden. I am somebody today. I am a mother today. I can be a mother today when I couldn't be a mother back then. What I know about myself today is I am a fighter. I am a fighter.
Okay. All right.
And I love me today.
Gotta love yourself.
I love me today.
Yes. Now you overcame a tremendous obstacle with substance abuse because reported numbers of substance abuse financial impacts in America is around $215 billion per year.
Yes.
So for you to create this milestone and face it and overcome it, why do you find that so many people can't overcome that? What's holding them back? Or what did you do that they didn't do?
Self is holding them back. Trust is holding them back. Fear is holding them back.
Mm.
That's the main factor, fear and control.
Mm-hmm.
What I did that they didn't do, I decided that I wanted to live. I made a step.
Mm-hmm.
I stepped out and took a risk. I took a risk when I was doing the drugs. And I decided that I wanted to live and that this wasn't all that it claimed to be. I began to rewind the tape of my life. And what it was is that I wanted my child back. I missed, but I couldn't do it for her. I had to do it for me. And the choice is theirs if they want to. But with what they are putting in their system today is so more controlling than it was back in my days. I think that they have to want it. They have to want it. That's the thing. You have to come to that point where you have to realize that it's more to life than what this is. You know, you have to come to that point that and you know, a lot of them I hear when they came in the center is, I want my kids back. But what are you going to do to get those kids back? Or is this going to be a temporary fix? Or is this going to be a permanently fix? But you can't get your kids back until you get you back. Because you got to find out who you are without the drugs. You got to find out, are you able to live and pay bills and be accountable and to be there? You got to find out all those things. You got to find out who you really are before you can do anything else. And so I think the answer to that is you have to make the choice. You know, you got to make a choice. That's just the thing. That's just it. You got to get the help. You cannot be afraid to reach out and tell somebody, pick up the phone. I can't do this anymore. I need help. I'm tired of being sick. I want to live. But for some people, they enjoy it. And for some people, they feel that that's the only thing that they can live by. And so everybody's not going to get it. Everybody's not going to want it. But for those who do want it, there is help. Pick up the phone, call somebody. The thing with addicts is trust. We'll trust the dope man when he tells us to go stand on that corner and wait for him for hours, and he's coming, more than we'll trust our family. because of the shame that we have, because of the bridges that we broke. And we cannot be mad at our family. We cannot. Because we got to remember, we are the ones that broke that bridge. We are the ones that caused mistrust. But I think that the answer would be, you got to make that choice.
Mhm.
Do you want to live, or do you want to just stay and die? I
Yeah.
chose that I want to live
Yeah.
because there was nothing else left.
Mhm.
Nothing left. Nothing.
I 1000% agree with the part where you said about the trust, and people will trust a dope man before the family members. Do you think that a person who has not had experience with using drugs himself is able to help someone who's using drug or in active use? Could that be a reason why the trust is not there as well?
That's part, because they don't know what that person really going through. They might have the book knowledge of it, but to really understand or walk in their shoes, they won't know. In that center, even the chaplain at rehab where I was, Salvation Army, even my counselors were drug addicts. So yes, that has a big factor, but it cannot stop them from praying for them, for looking up resources for them. It cannot, even though they have not been there, it cannot, but you don't know what they are going through, but you still can reach out and help by calling resources, by praying for them, by, here's my number. Call me when you feel like you want it. I'll talk you through it. I'll pray you. I'll pick you up. I'll take you to the rehab. Those type of things can help them.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good answer. I got one question left. We got about 5 minutes left here, so I'll be brief with the last question. I see the calmness and the peace in you, and I hear it in your voice, so I really appreciate that. But
Oh, wow.
I want to ask you, if someone was to play you in a movie, who would that actress be?
Who would I play in the movie?
No, who would play you? If someone did the movie, so because you got these books out there, Hollywood's always looking for a good story. Who would be Jewell Ward?
It would have been Whitney Houston.
Okay, like Whitney.
It would have been.
Yeah. Okay.
Reason why is because she walked in my shoes.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, and she's a good actress too.
And she's a good actress.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, cool. I like that.
Mhm.
Well, with Jewell, this went quick. I wish we had more time on this because I know it's a whole. I told you go by quick.
Can I share something?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay. And this is to encourage someone. I lost my grandson Tuesday. Today would have been a day he would have went to the prom. May would have been a day he would have graduated. Gunned down on his way home. Don't have the answers. But in situations like this, if you don't have situations like this, will cause one to want to go back to the next thing. And their next thing could be alcohol, drugs, go back into that old way. But today, I thank God for God. I thank God for being saved. I thank God for being rooted and grounded and having the support that I have, and to know that I don't have to go back there and pick up that pipe, that I can pick up a phone, I can call God, that I can call people like you and Tiki, evangelists, my partners, my pastor, my church, to help me get through that. I don't need the drugs. And I want to tell someone today that whatever you're going through and you feel as though you can't make it, is too much for you, and you need your dope man, you need that joint, you need that bottle, you don't need that. What you need is to pick up up that phone and call the sisters of the church. Pick up the phone and call Jewell Ward. Pick up that phone and call a center. Pick up that phone, call your sponsor. But most of all, get to know who God is and call on him. And I guarantee you, you will get through this without having to look back like Lot's wife.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yes, you
All
will
right.
happen to get through it with the help of people like Mr. Ward, Miss Tiki, and shows and videos and people that care. There are people who care for you out there. You might not feel it because you think people are judging you. Ain't nobody judging you, baby, because who are we?
Mhm.
Such were some of us. That's what Paul said. Such were some of us. I'm not here to judge you, baby. I'm here to love you.
Right.
I'm here to show you the way out. And the only way out is to take a step of faith
There you
and
go.
to know that you are loved. So I just come to tell you that there is hope. If you haven't gotten my book, it's on Amazon, also Barnes and Noble. Also, you can email me, jward5603@gmail.com, and I'll be glad to send you one. You don't have to pay for it, baby. If this is what's going to help you to get through,
Wow.
it's yours.
That's very generous of you. Thank you so much for sharing your story of courage, endurance, faith. It's just going to inspire a lot of people and hopefully help some
Yes,
who need
definitely
it.
will.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you. Thank
Thank you,
you.
guys. I just want to end on this final note. I'm not sure if we get this because we over a little bit.
Oh, I'm
But
so sorry.
oh no, it's okay. I just I know I should have went longer, but it's okay. I just want to say one of my favorite scriptures that I want to add before we end. It says that with that I heard a loud voice from the throne say, "Look, the tent of God is with mankind, and he will reside with them, and they will be his people, and God himself will be with them, and he will wipe out every tear from their eyes, and death will be no more, neither will
Yes,
mourning,
God.
nor outcry, nor pain anymore. The former things have passed away." Until next time, thank you for listening to What's Up with Ward. Thank you to our esteemed guest, Ms. Jewell Ward. I'm
Thank
Wardy.
you.
She's Tiki.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.